Hello, welcome on in. Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, #1 tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. I am Nigel Seeley and I'm joined by our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It's Sean Calvert, and we spoke yesterday. Sean looked at the event this week in Japan. Today we're concentrating on the 500 event in China, in Beijing, the China Open. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I had a lovely roast dinner last night. Feel really joyous. I can't even remember eating it, but it was a lovely roast dinner.
A roast dinner last night? Not on a Sunday afternoon or a lunchtime?
No. I sort of stumbled into a Toby Carvery and decided to have a roast dinner about 9:30 last night. I had no idea why, but that's what I did. And I couldn't remember having it until I looked at my bank statement this morning.
The place was empty,
and smelling the gravy on my fingers. No, there was quite a few people in there. I brought the average age down a bit, though.
Who's eating a roast dinner at 9:30 on a Tuesday night in the middle of... Where were you? Bromley?
Yeah, me.
Well, clearly there was more people in there. It just seems a bit of a strange time to have a roast dinner. If you're eating something that heavy, no, not at that time of night. If I have something like that, it takes me about 8 hours to digest it.
That's what 6 pints of Stella does to you. Makes you make strange decisions.
That is why I do not drink it. That's why you don't make these sort of errors with Magners. Not in the small quantities I drink, anyway.
It was nice anyway. It was a nice dinner. What I can remember of it anyway, it was a nice dinner, and it was very reasonable at the price. If you do come over to the UK, make sure you head to the Toby Carvery. Great value for money.
Other restaurant pub chains are available.
Exactly. Enough about that. Let's move on to the tennis. And we have a tournament in China. It's a 500 event. And it's a good field. Very, very good field. Jannik Sinner is in the tournament. The US Open champion, Carlos Alcaraz. Played well at last week in the Laver Cup. Looking to bounce back from his very disappointing US Open campaign. He's in it. They're the top two seeds. A good field. Not really great depth in it, but the top three in the betting are all very good players. Obviously, the number 3 seed in this tournament is Daniil Medvedev as well. So really good tournament here. Before we look at the draw, before we look at the bracket, before we look at the first round matches, usually, as usual, you go through the conditions. I looked at the weather forecast. Doesn't look too hot. Bit of rain around at the weekend. Decent sort of temperatures for tennis, really.
Yeah, it looks all right. About 25, 26 up until Sunday when rain is due. It's rained even more in Tokyo than I expected, actually. It said it was going to be all right until Friday, and then it was going to hammer it down, but it started early, so they're going to have to use the roof. But they got a roof here as well in Beijing. It's, as I said, about 25, 26. So pleasant temperatures up until Sunday when they expect a bit of rain. So this is played on a Deco turf, outdoor hard court, but they use head balls here rather than the Dunlop AO balls that they use in Tokyo. So it's a bit slower than Tokyo. The stats would suggest that. Several of the matches are played at night as well, which is obviously a lot slower. So it averages 78% holds and 71.1% first serve points won, which is clearly a little bit slower than Tokyo. And as I said, if the matches are played at night, and there are quite a few played at night here, then that obviously makes it a little bit slower as well. Carlos Alcaraz last year said that the balls get slower after just a game or two. Last year, that's the head balls that they use. They're generally regarded as slower balls anyway, they're head ones. And if Alcaraz is saying they're getting all fluffy and slow after just a couple of games, that would explain some of the statistics here. Only 35% of the matches feature tie breaks here. I think that's about 9% fewer than Tokyo. It's not great for underdog winners as well. This tournament generally is won by the top seed. I'll talk about the trends in a minute. The top players tend to go well here. Only 26% underdog winners in Beijing. That's one of the worst returns of the year, apart from in majors. There's a slight trend to the unders. 53% of the matches have gone under 22.5 games in the last 6 editions. And as I said, it's not particularly quick. So if you're looking to back over or under 10.5 games in set one, only 27% of the matches in the last 6 editions have gone over 10.5 games in set one. As far as the trends are concerned, as I said a second ago, the number 1 seed has either won the title or lost in the final every year from 2012 to 2022. So last year was the only outlier on that. When Sinner, I think Sinner won it last year, didn't he? But he wasn't. Did win it last year. He wasn't the number 1 seed. So as far as qualifiers are concerned, it's a not a good tournament for them either, as you can imagine. It's a 500. Only Martin Klijan in 2014 has ever made the semi-finals as a qualifier. So it's a tournament that the top seed pretty much always wins, in a nutshell.
Yeah, top seed is Sinner, looking to win back-to-back titles here in Beijing. If you look through the previous winners, Sinner won it, like I said, in 2023, Dominic Thiem in 2019, Basilashvili 2018. Did you back him that year? Did you bet him that year?
I bet him at 500 to 1 to win Doha
I thought
1 year. I've also had him a couple of times in other tournaments, but I don't think I backed him in Beijing, no.
He won it in 2018. We had Novak Djokovic won it 6 times as well. So, as Sean said, it's a tournament that's done very well for the top seeds. If we look at the draw, number 1 seed Jannik Sinner, he's scheduled to meet Andrei Rublev, the number 4 seed, Dimitrov, the number 5 seed in the quarterfinals. The number 4 seed Rublev will play Musetti, if Musetti gets through, obviously. Got to the final last week. That will be the top half of the draw. And in the bottom half of the draw, Bublik is the number 8 seed against Medvedev, and Kecmanovic against Alcaraz. So really, when you look at it, there isn't really much great around it in depth in terms of the players outside those top 8 seeds. There isn't really much of a way of a threat here, and that's sort of reflected in the odds here. If we look at the odds to win the tournament, Jannik Sinner is plus 150 with Bet Rivers. Carlos Alcaraz is $2. So those two players dominate the market, take 73% of the percentage on those two. Daniil Medvedev is $5, Dimitrov 12, Rublev 12, Zhang 28, Kecmanovic 35, Musetti 35, Bublik 40, Lehecka 40, and Zhang, who got beaten in the final last week as well, 45 to 1. Really hard to oppose with all those stats you said there, and with all the statistics and the way that they're playing. It's very hard to oppose the top 3 here, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping a little bit that the Olympics, as it has knocked a lot of things out of whack this season, it could be the case that with that thrown in as well, that just might add to the extra sort of layer of fatigue that these top guys have been playing with in recent times. I mean, as I said, Alcaraz was talking about motivation. They have to play, by the way, 1 ATP 500. It's mandatory to play 1 500 after the US Open. So and there isn't much choice really. There's only kind of this or Tokyo or later on. I think Basel and Vienna are 500s, aren't they? I think those are the only options. So they've kind of got to play one of them, otherwise there's a problem with the other 500 ranking points that they've achieved earlier on in the year. So some of these players kind of turning up because they have to, but there's a lot of money in this tournament. You know, it's like almost $4 million. You know, the prize fund here. So it's a lucrative tournament. You can see why some of the players are playing here. But I think as far as the outrights are concerned, I mean, yeah, the trends heavily suggest that Jannik Sinner is going to win this. And it does seem the most likely outcome. But I'm going to take a chance on somebody else here, on the basis that, you know, Sinner's played an awful lot of tennis. He's got to raise himself for what's for him now a kind of a mediocre tournament. So I'm going to take Andrei Rublev here. He's 12 to 1, I think, on with Bet Rivers on the each way market. He was actually the last player to beat Jannik Sinner in Montreal, and he was extremely close as well on what was a very, very windy day, almost unplayably windy, in fact, in Cincinnati a week or two later. And they also played in Melbourne at the Australian Open at the start of this year, where the first 2 sets were very close. Rublev should have won the second set in that match. And if you look at the second serve points won in their last 2 meetings, that's Montreal and Cincinnati, when they played each other in both those tournaments, the second serve points won is virtually identical, something like 0.2 in favour of Sinner. But so on the basis of that, Rublev does look by far the most likely player to benefit if Sinner doesn't make it, or the one who's more likely to beat him. I'm not convinced that the likes of Jarry and Struff and Dimitrov are likely to do it. Maybe Dimitrov if he has an absolutely superb day. That's always possible with him. But Rublev, for me, looks by far the most likely to take advantage of any slip from Sinner. I've also got one in the bottom half as well, which is completely left field, which I think you kind of have to do when you've got a market like this. You know, as I said, motivation is perhaps not as high as this year because of the Olympics has you know, taken a bit more energy out of them.
Yeah, Rublev has been in great form, actually. I mean, he got to the last 16 at the US Open. Prior to that quarterfinal in Cincinnati, he was beaten by Sinner. Got to the final in Montreal, beaten by Popper in a match he probably should have won in hindsight. And he's been given a favourable draw. I think Q2 is a very, very favourable draw. I think that's the nice part of the draw. He's got a good first round match against Pablo Carreño Busta, a man who leads 4-0 in the head-to-head.
Yeah.
And then he could potentially run into Musetti, who's going to be exhausted after making the final last week, losing in the final. So, yeah, I think that's... I can see the logic in there, but if you're going by the stats and you're going by the trends, then Sinner and Alcaraz are going to take some stopping. In the bottom half of the draw, you've got to pick. Alcaraz is the favourite, obviously, to make it through to the final 2-1 to win the tournament, but you're going a little bit left field. Who are you going for?
Yeah, the left field is basically because the noises coming out of Alcaraz at the minute suggest that, he's not that up for some of these events. We saw in Cincinnati, he certainly wasn't up for that, was he? Dreadful performance from him there. He just, he's played an awful lot of tennis. And is he up for this? Yeah, he might be. If he is, then he'll probably make the final. If he isn't, then the options, it's very Alcaraz heavy, this bottom half of the draw, isn't it? Because Medvedev's not in good form at all at the moment. Medvedev's the obvious alternative, but I think if you go for an alternative to the alternative, I think you've got to be looking at Karen Khachanov here. I backed him last week and he was a little bit disappointed. I didn't think he played that bad against Boo. Boo played, a fabulous match there. But what interests me is the last 3 matches that Khachanov played against Medvedev. He leads the service points won and return points won total by 104 to 96. Yet he only won 1 of them. He should have won 2 of them matches that he played against Medvedev. But leading over 104-96 over 3 matches suggests that he's certainly more than capable of beating Medvedev. And Medvedev's coming here after 2 pretty poor losses in Laver Cup, Ben Shelton and Tiafoe. And a pretty mediocre season by his standards, really. He's only made 2 finals in 2024, Medvedev. He made 9 in 2023, 5 in 2022, and 8 in 2021. This year he's made just the 2. And as I said last week, Khachanov, he does need ranking points to make sure he's seeded for the Australian Open. He's down in the sort of 27s at the minute. He'd probably make it, but it's not a certainty. And he's going to want to get rid of this funk that he's in at the moment. So 35-1 each way. He's the alternative to the alternative. And that's where I'm going here.
Yeah, Khachanov, 35-1 available. I watched him play Medvedev in Monte Carlo. And
he won that match, didn't he?
I think he won that match. He should have won it. He played very, very well on that day. And he outpowered Medvedev. And so obviously you can see why he's got the good record in recent matches against him. And obviously could have won more. But Medvedev is opposing in Q3. And we're going to go for Khachanov in Q4 at a very nice price, 35-1. To win the tournament. So they're the 2 outright picks on the outright market. Andrei Rublev at 12-1 and Khachanov at 35-1. We're going Russian heavy on the tournament here. We've got some matches we are going to discuss. And the first match is a match between Lorenzo Sonego up against Adrian Mannarino. Sonego is a heavy favourite here at -210. Mannarino is +165. If you look at the spread, it is a 2.5 game match, -139 for Sonego, giving up the 2.5, and the total here is 22.5. These 2 players have no strangers to each other. They've played 4 times previously, 2 wins apiece. Mannarino has won the last 2 meetings, included the United Cup this year, 6-4, 6-4, and he beat him at the US Open in 2020. The 2 wins for Sonego were way back in 2018 and 2019. Mannarino's had a bad run this year, bad year, but there is signs that he's showing a little bit of improvement. Reached the quarterfinals in Chengdu, got beat by Musetti. And Sonego, after winning in Winston-Salem, hasn't won a match since. So this could be a favourite here that might want to oppose you at -210.
Yeah, it couldn't be more Sonego, that could it? In fact, I mentioned it last week, didn't I? I talked about Taro Daniel against Sonego, and I mentioned the inconsistency that Sonego's always had with this game. I think there's good value on Mannarino here. As you just said, there were signs of life from him in Chengdu. Played a lot better than he had for many months. Basically, he's not played well since sort of January, February. He's been pretty awful since then. He's certainly not going to be tired. That's for sure. He's hardly played any matches because he keeps losing. He won the same percentage of second serve points as Musetti did in Chengdu. And the general level that he showed there, it was much, much better than he showed for most of this season, from, let's say, sort of March until all the way through the clay. You don't expect much from him anyway, but the grass season he was poor, and then even on the hard after that. But now he seems to have woken up a bit. And the head-to-head has been extremely favourable for Mannarino. in terms of service points won and return points won overall, 4 of their meetings, it's very much in favour of him by 104 to 96. Mannarino winning 58% of the second serve points across those 4 meetings. Sonego just 48%. So Mannarino's certainly been the boss from the back of the court. And one of those matches was played on clay, which Mannarino could have won, actually. He won the first set, lost the second set in a tiebreak, as he did in the other match that he lost to Sonego, which was on grass. Mannarino holds serve 88% of the time in this matchup. Sonego 76% of the time. So all the stats are on the head-to-head are in favour of Mannarino. I'm also questioning Sonego on the Asian swing. He's 2-5 win-loss on the Asian swing in his career. He's only ever won matches in Shanghai. He's never won a match at any other tournament on the Asian swing. So it just looks a really bad price on Sonego. The risk, obviously, is Mannarino. Is he still able to produce that top level or somewhere near to his top level? Yeah, it's a little bit of a risk on that. But as you said, the signs were there in Chengdu that he's perhaps coming back towards a bit of his better form. So I'm happy to take a chance on him at this price. Plus 165 at Bet Rivers. That's good value, I think.
Yeah, plus 165. I mean, really, it's based on the fact that Mannarino's just had this terrible year. But, if anyone watched him last week, you could make a case that this could be close to a 50-50 call, really. I'm very surprised that Sonego is minus 210 to win here. Mannarino's plus 165. Head across to the Bet Rivers website. These matches start in the early hours of Thursday morning. So make sure you get across nice and early to place your wagers here, because the lines won't be up there long. And if you do place a bet on the match, you can bet live and watch live on your app or your mobile device with Bet Rivers. Let's move on to the next match. Alejandro Davidovich Fokina up against Zhang. Zhang, the finalist in Hangzhou, who got beat by Cilic rolled back the years and won the tournament there. If you look at the betting here, it's minus 136 for Zhang, plus 110 for Davidovich Fokina. The spread is 1.5, total 22.5. Zhang has had quite an exhausting week making that final. 2 long sets, 7-6, 7-6, I think it was, against Cilic as well.
Yeah.
A long week for him. He's probably a little bit deflated that he never produced the goods in the final, couldn't break that Cilic serve. But yeah, he's the favourite here against Davidovich Fokina, who's in a bit of poor form, hasn't won a main tour match since Montreal in August.
Yeah, I just wonder how much Zhang is able to put in this week or wants to put in this week. The knee is the thing that concerns me. He had that issue at the US Open when I think he had to retire, didn't he, against Jack Draper. Due to that knee problem. He's still got a lot of taping on that knee. And he's got Shanghai next week, where he played really well last year. He won 3 or 4 matches there, I think, last year. It's not exactly round the corner either from Hangzhou to Beijing. It's 1,278 kilometres. So it's he's got to get up from that disappointment of losing at home in the final to Cilic. Not much time to prepare. Dodgy knee as well. Probably thinking about next week, the Masters event. That's one way of looking at it. If you look at the stats this season, 2024 on outdoor hard at main level, Davidovich actually leads the stats. I mentioned last week that Zhang's numbers aren't that great on hard courts, outdoor hard this season. Davidovich Fokina, 50% win rate and a service points won and return points won, total of 101. Zhang, 47% win rate and a total of 99. So Davidovich leads that. The worry, or one of the worries with Davidovich Fokina, is that he's done nothing on the Asian swing so far in his career. And as his career has generally panned out, he's been losing a lot of matches and sets that he should be winning, which is something that he's always done. He's losing games from 40-love, 40-15. We know he's terrible at serving out sets, and when he's with a lead, that's what worries me. But I'm certainly tempted with him here at plus money. What is he, plus 110 with Bet Rivers? I think that's the way I'm going to go. It won't be an official pick because he scares me, Davidovich. But that price on Zhang, minus 136, again, given the circumstances and given the stats, it's very short.
When I went to Miami, I think I've told you this story before, I tried to bolt through to an entrance that I wasn't allowed to go through. And I had accreditation. I had accreditation. I had a badge around me. And the guy said, this is for players and their coaches only. And I said, I'm a coach. I said, I'm a coach. And they said, who do you coach? And I just couldn't think of anyone. I went, Davidovich Fokina. And they went, okay, go through.
I would have laughed if he'd said, you don't look anything like Fernando Verdasco. That would have been fun.
I just couldn't think of anybody I could say. I went, Davidovich Fokina. He said, okay, go through.
Do you think
do
you think if you'd have said basically any slightly obscure player on the ATP Tour, he would have gone, yeah, go on then?
Yeah, but that was my thinking, and it was the first person I could think of. He was playing, and I was going to watch his match. I just thought, Davidovich Fokina. And anyway, let's move on. There's 2 more matches we've got.
Did he lose it from a setup or 5
He completely had a meltdown.
He
He did. I can't remember who played. He might have played. I'll Google it in a minute, but he had an absolute meltdown. Let's have a look at the 2 other matches. Remember, these are early starts as well. I keep saying that, but it's very important to head across to the BetRivers website to see the order of play and the times where they're going to start very, very early. Next match, Tallon Griekspoor against Miomir Kecmanovic, minus 162 Griekspoor, plus 130 Kecmanovic. Totals here interest me. Over 22.5 is minus 127. Under is even money. You look at the head-to-head between these 2 of them. They met twice this year, both in a matter of weeks, really, on grass at Wimbledon. Kecmanovic won 3 sets to 2, 1 tiebreak in the match. And earlier in Herzogenbosch, Griekspoor won 2 sets to 1, and all 3 of the matches went to a tiebreak, 6-7, 7-6, 7-6. So I think if you are looking at this match, the first thing you need to look at is the totals and the tiebreaks.
Yeah, I think there's some value on Kecmanovic here. This looks a pretty mediocre price on Griekspoor, to say the least. If again, statistics just aren't there to justify this. These odds are minus 162. 2024 at main level on outdoor hard. Obviously, this surface. Griekspoor service points won and return points won, total of just 98. Kecmanovic 100. So he's a couple of points better off there. And it's all about the return with Griekspoor. He's only winning 32.6% of return points. It's just not good enough. It's putting too much pressure on his service games. He's not breaking at all. And if you look at their head-to-head, as you said, it was a couple of matches on grass this summer where you would expect Griekspoor to be better suited. Kecmanovic has never been particularly keen on grass. Griekspoor has. It suits his game, big serving, attacking style of play. But across those 2 matches, the service points won and return points won totals are 105 to Kecmanovic and 95 to Griekspoor. So a huge advantage in favour of the Serb there. And again, Griekspoor only winning 28% of return points. It's not like Kecmanovic is Hercash. He's not. It's just not good enough. As far as Griekspoor's concerned, those stats might be a little bit off because Griekspoor was a little bit injured in that Wimbledon match. I think he had a back issue and he kind of faded away in the last couple of sets. But even if you consider the match that Griekspoor won in Rosmalen, Kecmanovic had the better stats in that match as well, but lost it. I think he lost it in the final set tiebreak. So a little bit unlucky to lose that one. And then if we look at the results on the Asian swing, Griekspoor's done nothing at this time of the year either. He's 1-4 win-loss. Griekspoor on the Asian swing. Kecmanovic has won 4 of his last 6 completed matches on the Asian swing. He's 6-9 win-loss. So everything really points to Kecmanovic. So I think it's good value. Plus 130, is he with BetRivers?
Plus 130.
Yeah.
Nice price.
I'm finding some great good value losers at the minute, but I'm going to continue to stick to my principles and if the value's there, then I have to take it.
I've got a bit of bad news. I've just checked the BetRivers website and the app, and it's actually been cut to plus 110 Kecmanovic now. The line has gone. And the total's actually moved from 22.5 to 23.5. So there has been some live movement.
It's still plus money. It's still decent value. Just not as good as it was 30 seconds ago.
No. I did say that the matches start in the early hours of Thursday morning. They actually start at 11 p.m. this evening. So make sure you head across to get these bets on now. The lines are moving very, very quickly on some of these suggestions on these outsiders. So make sure you get those bets on nice and early, 11 p.m. We don't know the order of play yet, but the action starts at 11 p.m. Our final match, Cobolli up against Bublik. Now, I was pretty shocked when I saw the prices of this come through. Cobolli is minus 137. I know he's had a good year, but minus 137. Bublik is plus 110. He's the number 8 seed here. The spread is 2.5, and the total is 23.5, a high number with over minus 125. Bublik reached the quarterfinals in Chengdu, and Cobolli, I know he had a good run in the early part of the year, but he got to the third round of the US Open very heavily beaten by Medvedev and hasn't really played since in a couple of Davis Cup matches, 1 win, 1 defeat. But I know he's a good player, and I know he's a great talent. But plus 110 to me, and Bublik is very disrespectful for a player of his caliber. But obviously, we know that he has Bublik days where he either fancies it or he doesn't. But at plus 110, I think I've got to play that.
Yeah, I mean, Cobolli is definitely a little bit short here on the numbers for this season. 2024 main level on outdoor hard. I mean, neither of them have got great stats. Bublik service points won and return points won total of 98, but Cobolli's only on 97. So immediately you're thinking, okay, well, not a great price on Cobolli. A better win rate. He's won more matches, 60% win rate, Cobolli, compared to 53% for Bublik. But, these stats are nothing special, to say the least. Cobolli's lost 7 of his last 10 matches against top 30 ranked players, which Bublik is. As usual, a lot will depend on the attitude of Alexander Bublik and potentially when this match is being played. I don't know the order of play yet, but he did at least look like he was trying in Chengdu last week, which is not what I wanted, of course, because he actually managed to win an opening set for the first time in quite some considerable time. And he played pretty well against Jerry Zhang as well. He was a little bit unlucky. Zhang saved, I think, 5 out of 5 break points in that match, if I remember rightly. But he looked like he was up for it, Bublik. I mean, it's Alexander Bublik. So, I've got him and Davidovich Fokina on this short list today. So, you do take your chances with these guys and their attitude on the day. But it's too short, that is, Cobolli, minus 137. I'd be looking to play Bublik here if I was feeling brave.
Yeah, I thought Bublik would be marginal favourite, actually. At plus 110, you've got to take your chance with him. But, we could do the trend. I think you bet him in play. Let him lose the first set. The stats don't lie on that one. Head across the Bet Rivers, they've got the mark on that. Stats, a remarkable amount of first sets that Bublik lost on tour this year. Lose the first set, then back him in play at a bigger price. But
yeah, that's possible.
Bublik at plus 110 does look a price that you're going to look at it tomorrow and think, I wish I bet that. So that's it for today. They're our outright picks, and they are our matches for the tournament in Beijing. There is a women's tournament in Beijing as well this week, and Roy Giovanni went solo yesterday after all kinds of problems. We had a pneumatic drill going off. We had Echo's sound problems in his kitchen, but he went solo and got a little podcast and a little show available on Betting Weekly WTA. You can watch his picks and see who he fancies for the women's tournament in Beijing this week. As far as Sean is concerned, who are your picks for the outright market and who are your official plays for tomorrow's first round?
Yeah, so as far as the outright's concerned, Andrei Rublev each way. I think he's 12-1 with Bet Rivers. And his pal Kecmanovic, I believe, is 35-1?
35-1, yeah.
Each way. So the two Russians there each way. And I think the value on the match is that the best value is Adrian Mannarino to beat Sonego plus 165. And Kecmanovic at whatever price he is now. Did you say plus 110?
Plus 110 now. Plus 110.
Plus 110 to beat Griekspoor.
So there we have it. There's a couple of little matches there for you, as well as the outright picks. Remember, there's so much content here on Betting Weekly Studios each day. Betting Weekly live, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Well, the handicapping team will be giving you the rundown on the best plays for that particular day on the world of sport, as well as the big bets and the big movers from the Bet Rivers HQ. Download this podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Betting Weekly Studios. Give us a follow on our Instagram and our Twitter at Because We Win. And finally, subscribe to our website. It's Betting Weekly Studios. You'll get a newsletter. So you can subscribe to the newsletter, and starting next month, we'll be sending you a daily newsletter with all the updates from the team and best bets for the day. So lots to look forward to. We'll be back later in the week. I'm not quite sure the day yet, Sean. I can never work out the schedules in this time of year, but I'm sure we'll have a chat, and we'll be back this week sometime.
I mean, it's even harder this week with one tournament starting the day before the other. So I guess it just depends on what matches are on when, which we won't know yet.
Yeah, we'll be back. Well, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. We'll see. But we'll have one more show this week, and then we'll be back again next week with all the talking points and the best bets in the world of tennis. That's it for today. Have a good day. All the best with your bets. Thanks for your time, Sean. I'll speak to you again later.